Welcome back to Morning Joe. Beautiful live picture of the White House back here in New York. The president out with his first tweets of the morning. He writes this: would love to send the NYC terrorist to Guantanamo, but statistically that process takes much longer than going through the federal system. He goes on, there is also something appropriate about keeping him in the home of the horrible crime he committed. Should move fast. Death penalty. So he's still calling for the death penalty, which is what we talked about, but he's now backed off the claim yesterday that he said publicly. He said, send him to Gitmo. Yes, I would consider that. Perhaps he was, I don't know, watching TV this morning and heard that maybe that wasn't such an expeditious way to achieve justice.
So there we are.
Know.
Willie Geist once again at the London School of Economics tweet desk.
Yeah.
Are we going to get sued by them?
LES? Yeah. They'll give us a degree. Free publicity. Free publicity.
Okay.
Giving everybody else a degree.
Did Mick Jagger get an honorary doctorate?
He was there for a time.
He was actually
He was there.
For a time, right before Satisfaction.
He and Keith Richards, yeah. All right, joining us now, member of the Homeland Security Committee and chairman of the Subcommittee on Counterterrorism and Intelligence, Republican Congressman Peter King of New York. He's also a member of the Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence. Congressman, always good to see you. Condolences again about another attack here in our city of New York. 8 lives lost a couple of days ago when a guy drove a truck down the bike path there. I'm curious what you think about in terms of punishment. Good idea to send this suspect to Guantanamo to stand trial, or to have him appear in a federal court here in New York?
Probably in this case, it's better to go in the federal court. I mean, I'm not one of those people who's opposed to Guantanamo. There could be certain instances where it serves a purpose. But I think in this case, from all that I've heard, I think the federal district court is the right way to go. And I think the FBI is also making considerable progress in their investigation. And I think you may see that there's more to this than we know right now. I think there's a lot of smoke here.
Hey, Pete, Judge Scarborough here. Are you concerned at all with the president calling for the death penalty 24 hours later? Or do you, and again, I'm just talking mainly for due process concerns and also not wanting to give his defense team any advantages in court that they wouldn't have if the president wasn't tweeting that.
Yeah, I would say this is one of the situations where you have a president who's a non-politician and a non-lawyer and is speaking from the gut. I think most Americans right now would say, yes, give him the electric chair, give him the gas chamber, give him the needle. But the fact is, I agree with you, Joe, that as a lawyer, the president has to be careful on what he says. I remember years ago, I'm dating myself now, during the Manson case, when President Nixon made some allegation about Manson being a killer, and the trial wasn't over yet, and they were very concerned that it would cause a mistrial. So, yeah, any president has to be very careful on what they say about someone who's about to be charged, is being charged, or is about to go to trial.
Right.
Congressman, it's Heidi Presbella. We are reminded in horrible moments like this of the fact that in our own budget, we have cuts to counterterrorism programs, to some items which you would think would be essential, like patrolling airports. Can you please weigh in on how we can justify putting cuts like that into our budget at a time like this, when we see things like this happening inside our own country?
Well, I've fought Homeland Security cuts, whether it was under the Bush administration, the Obama administration, and now in the Trump administration. And virtually all of those cuts have been restored in the budget that passed the House. Now, I know some individual segments within that have been cut, but overall, I believe the budget has actually increased over last year, for Homeland Security. To me, we can never spend enough money on Homeland Security. I think somehow bureaucrats don't realize how intense this is, how every day of the year there are threats or potential threats being monitored, both from overseas, both from within the country. And I remember, when the FBI director said there's over 1,000 ongoing investigations right now in the U.S. If only one of those investigations goes the wrong way, we could have 20, 30, 50, 100 people killed.
Congressman Sam Stein here. Yesterday in morning, the president tweeted about a diversity visa immigration program that he said was, or that he suggested, I should say, was responsible for letting this guy in and therefore the attack. He also said that it was a Chuck Schumer beauty. I'm wondering what you make of both the future of that program, what Congress can do and should do about it, and secondly, about the attack against a fellow member of the New York delegation, Chuck Schumer.
Okay, let me start with the last one first. I obviously have some political differences with Chuck Schumer, but we work closely together. And the issue of terrorism, Chuck Schumer has been very strong. I'll say that right up front. As far as the overall issue on the immigration, I do believe that we need stronger vetting. However, the lottery visas have nothing to do with vetting. They are, anyone coming in under a lottery visa is vetted the same as anyone else. This was actually put in 1990 as a counter to, I guess going back to 1965, when Ted Kennedy basically led a reform of the immigration law, which
To help the Irish, right?
Well, not the Irish. Most of Western Europe was closed down because they wanted to open it up to South Asia, and that's when many people from Pakistan and India came into the country, which was a great benefit to our country. Then we realized that people from Western Europe, among others, in effect were not allowed to come to the country. So this is one of the only ways that people from Western Europe, I think last year, over 20,000 of the visas that were given out under this went to people from Europe. And also after the fall of the Berlin Wall and the fall of the Soviet Union, many people from Eastern Europe are now using the lottery to come in. So listen, I agree with the president to the extent I think we do need more vetting. I think there's more, we've been not as strict as we should be on the vetting, despite what some people say. On the other hand, the lottery visa has nothing to do with it.
Let's move from the terrible attacks here and immigration to tax reform. That's obviously going to be a challenge for Republicans in the House and the Senate to pass a bill, especially where they're pushing it on you guys at the last minute, having you try to digest it and then pass it in pretty quick time for something that's significant. What are your initial thoughts about the tax reform plan that you've heard about, and is it something that you ultimately would support?
Joe, right now I have one very real problem with it. That's on the issue of state and local tax deduction. In a place like New York, in my district, probably I think 48% of the people take advantage, if you want to call that, of the property tax deduction.
Can I stop you there for a second?
Yeah.
Because I live in Connecticut and I understand, I certainly understand that. Can you talk about the small business owners that the plumbers, the electricians, the people that, the mom and pop operations? Can you talk about just how impacted they would be in New York, California, Illinois, by these cuts?
Yeah, they'd be hit very badly. I mean, if you itemize it all, I mean, this is a devastating impact. I mean, people in my district, and this would apply also to small businesses because it works its way down, it's not unusual to have a property tax and combined income tax bill of over $25,000, $25,000 to $30,000, which is a deduction. That does not make you rich. A average property tax bill in my district in a 60 by 100 home is well over $15,000 a year in many cases. State income tax is similar to that. So this is, to me, has a significant impact on us in New York and Connecticut, and it also affects, you're right, the small mom and pop, small business operators. But what bothers me a bit about this is people say somehow this is a special benefit that we're getting in New York or New Jersey. The fact is, New York is a donor state. We get 79 cents back on every dollar that's sent to Washington.
Right.
New Jersey is even less than that. So this, to me, is also, as Republicans, we're supposed to be against taxing. Well, this is a tax on a tax. And also, we're supposed to believe in tradition. Well, since 1913, local property taxes, state income taxes have been deducted. They're not being taxed at the federal level. So this is a dramatic change. Also, Joe, the last time this was done was 30 years ago. So whatever we do is going to really impact generations to come. And yet, when it was done 30 years ago, there was about 2 years of debate before the bill was finally voted on. It was a bipartisan product. Now, we're going to be voting on this in 2 weeks. No one's seen it yet, and we're going to be voting on it in 2 weeks. And this could have either catastrophic consequences for my district. Who knows? Maybe it could help my district. I don't know, because I haven't seen it. And I don't know how you can digest a bill of 1,000 pages with all of the loopholes that could be in there, with all of the exceptions that could be in there, or all of the unforeseen consequences that could be in there.
Well,
so,
Pete, Pete, they did that to you guys in the House and in the Senate on health care reform. I remember back when Newt tried to do this, we would all go crazy. You know, they'd put together this omnibus package, would have 12 hours to read it, and they'd say, vote for it. And I remember people like you and me would say, if you got to give us time to actually see what's in the bill before we vote on it. That has become the norm over the past 9-10 months, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has, yeah. And now with the omnibus, I agree with you. That's a bad procedure to follow. But usually the only bad impact is for 1 year. If there's something in there that's bad, it really has like a 1 year impact because it's basically short-term, items we're voting on. This is something that could affect us for the next 20 to 30 years. So it's all the more reason why I think we should have more debate on it. Now, all this is done so they can get it through the Senate with 51 votes because of reconciliation, which is an arcane process. But again, and listen, I think Paul Ryan, Kevin Brady, they certainly are well-intentioned. I'm not questioning them at all. We've been able to talk to them. But on the other hand, this to me is being rushed through, and it could have a real impact on my district. And the people it affects the most in my district are the Trump voters. My district voted twice for Barack Obama. They voted for Donald Trump by 9 points. It was a 14-point turnaround. It's only a 34% Republican district. The people I'm hearing from the most are Trump supporters, and these are, again, people, middle-income people, hardworking people, cops, firemen, construction workers, people who are first-generation college or working on Wall Street, and they're making good money, but they've been working hard for it. These people are not born with a silver spoon. They feel that they are being betrayed.
Well, and here it is on November the 2nd, and you and other rank-and-file Republican members still haven't seen the bill. All right, Congressman Peter King, always great talking to you. Thank you so
Joe.
much for
Okay,
talking
Joe.
to us. Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.